Today we opted for a paid tour. We met up with our guide and took a train 10 miles southwest of Paris to Versailles.
Servira toutes les gares de Versailles rive gauche à Versailles Château rive gauche.
Have your ticket yet? We're going to be using it for the last time.
We got off at Avenue General de Gaulle, where we picked up our bikes before heading to the local farmers market. We went to Versailles believing that it was just a town with a pretty palace at the center. Boy, were we wrong. Turns out, it's an experience.
Okay, the farmers market is not that big today. It's going to be very quick. We buy some groceries, some bread, charcuterie, wine, beer, whatever you need for our picnic, okay? Alrighty, this is the ATM machine.
Smells so good.
Yeah.
You want to get a baguette too?
Because I can't make coffee.
You can't go past them again?
You want pate?
No, we can. I can have some of these wings up here.
Then we're going to enter the Queen's Gate this way. Then we're going to happen like halfway between the palace and the whole land over here. So that's 2,000 acres of land.
Construction of the garden alone took upwards of 40 years to complete. So the bike is the best way to see it. The entire countryside had to be shifted just to make the ground level. Hundreds of fountains had to be dug. Trees were brought in from all the different regions of France. Thousands of men, sometimes entire regiments, took part in this immense project. The gardens of Versailles are some of the largest and most spectacular in the world.
1,200 fountains.
In addition to the fountains, they contain 372 statues, 55 water features, and over 20 miles of water pipes. Oh, that is a lot of rain out there. Woo! Yeah, yeah, yeah!
Want you to help?
No, I'm okay.
I'll just ride back together in Versailles.
Everything was delicious. We enjoyed sharing our fresh breads, ripe fruits, aged cheeses, cured meat, and exquisite wine while relaxing by the beautiful water feature. The Grand Trianon, or Grand Apartment. Heavily influenced by Italian architecture, King Louis XIV had this pink marble building with, quote, delicious gardens, constructed as a getaway from the palace. It's also where he decided to home some of his mistresses. The property was enjoyed and refurbished by the likes of Napoleon in the 1800s and President Charles de Gaulle in the 1960s. Marie Antoinette spent some time at the Grand Trianon, but she preferred the more modest, the Petite Trianon.
Marie Antoinette stayed here 117 nights.
Here she was free to be herself and raise her children without being in the spotlight constantly. She even had a little hamlet built. the Queen's Hamlet. At 18, Marie Antoinette's husband gifted her this land and house, and she quickly called in architects to transform it into a peaceful landscape. A recreation of the Austrian village she grew up in an effort to keep her children grounded as adults. Beyond the small apartment, just through the brush, was a glimpse into a queen's personal space. A restoration of an 18th century getaway. In the mid-1600s, King Louis XIV sought to have a palace built to outdo the ruler of Paris at the time, a place bigger than any other palace in the world. He took a small hunting lodge built by his father in 1624 and demanded it be turned into his palace. When the architects wanted inspiration, the king didn't give directions. He mentioned he wanted a palace that said he is the absolute monarch, untouchable and distant. But even more than that, he is the Sun King. The Hall of Mirrors. This ornate hall holds a total of 357 mirrors and 17 arches, and is adorned with 43 chandeliers. The treaty that ended World War I was signed here. Definitely Elaine's favorite room in the palace. Today, Versailles is the second biggest palace in Europe outside of the Louvre. Per the king's wishes, this place was large. So large, the king moved the French government and its court to the palace in 1682. Everything used to construct and decorate the palace was created in France. You can see it throughout the home, and once it was finished, the palace would cost France a quarter of its annual income just to maintain everything inside. One oversight from the architect was the distance between the kitchen and the dining room. With sometimes over 5,000 people, hundreds of servants were needed to get food to everyone. Unfortunately for the king, the distance from his seat to the kitchen was so far away, his meals were often served cold. Eventually, in the 18th century, Louis XV had kitchens built in his private apartments. The King's Boudoir, where people of the king's court watched him do everything from wake up in the morning to go to sleep at night. It was considered a privilege. At one point, over 5,000 people could be accommodated in Versailles' large living spaces in 600 plus bedrooms. We had a wonderful day that exceeded all expectations. A beautiful bike ride, a hilarious guide, and an amazing group. Learning the extensive history of this immense golden palace was exhausting, but also an experience we will never forget. Oh, you okay?
Got it?
Hey, 2,000 acres.
I know, it's such a good picture.
Okay.